Today I thought I could talk about, so I did a video like a day or two ago on finding peace and looking at our life and how to find peace. And in that video, I kind of just talk about finding peace like with yourself. And I thought the second part of the talk could be finding peace in relationships. And how do I form relationships that are peaceful? How do I form relationships where I feel more cared, nurtured, and supported rather than mistreated, disrespected, or that these relationships are taking more from me than are giving to me? Or maybe if we've grown up feeling, if we've grown up in environments that maybe were a little bit more abusive, we tend to get so comfortable with the feeling of mistreatment or the fire of being hurt, abused, or pain, that then when that comes back, when we have relationships that embody that same level of fire, we don't run away from the burns because we go, familiar, this is something that I've experienced before. And us as humans love things that are familiar. And if we grew up with well-being and love and harmony and peace being familiar, then that's oftentimes when we come into adulthood what we seek. And if we grew up in pain or abuse or had some mixture of things that created well-being in our life, in our family, some things that our parents did really well, and then some things that our parents, kind of hurt us or harmed us or mistreated us, and some mixture of well-being and pain. And for me, I feel like I came from a little bit of a mixture. But that being said, when I was like finishing high school, I was very much shut down, very much, very much broken, very much felt like I didn't have a voice. And so I definitely have been through my own fair share of mistreatment, abuse, um, and maybe snuffing out of my innocence. And for me, uh, most of the trauma that I went through was a lot of like verbal put down, a lot of verbal abuse, a lot of people not really being able to handle their anger or emotions well. And so when we're looking at our relationships, the two kind of imbalances in relationships is the first one is is when we're starting relationships is having a little bit too sharp of a boundary. When we're starting relationships, which, we all have to be discerning, is this person that I started being friends with or started dating, are they showing red flags right away? Like, are they coerce? I don't know if I can say that word. Are they coercive, manipulative? Are they right away doing things that make me not trust them? Are they maybe telling some lies that make me rather uncomfortable? And what are the red flags that I'm seeing in this relationship? And like when we can become aware of what kind of person is this? Is this person that I'm spending time with generally a person that stands for love, kindness, and respect? Or do they use love, kindness, and respect as a way of manipulating people? Like that's two very different people. One person who and throughout all of their day, they try to do their best to be the right person. And when I spend time with that, I see that part every time. Right? That is someone who is consistent and loving. And then there's other people who maybe are still lost in pain, and it doesn't mean they're they deserve less love or that they couldn't eventually be aligned with greater love, kindness, and respect. And oftentimes the people that hurt people were the people that were the most hurt. So we have compassion, but as I'm spending time with this person, is this person mistreating me, causing me harm, doing things that make me that are feel anguishing to me or that make me cry, and then they try and flip it on me and make me doubt, is this person actually doing something that's harming me, or is it me just not being or is it me just being sensitive, right? And if someone's trying to blame you for you being upset about something they did, that's called gaslighting, and that's a good sign that you're in an abusive relationship or are with someone who is probably going to leave you more hurt and harm than feeling loved and cared for by the time that relationship ends. But when we're getting to know people, that's healthy. And this is a pattern that I've experienced quite often, or I've experienced somewhat like a fair amount of getting to know people. And I would say I would say I'm a person that stands for love, kindness, and respect. And if you watched a fair amount of my YouTube videos, like what I talk about in the videos is how I live my life. And it's what I try to embody to a greater degree every day. And I try my very best to change and grow as much as I can within days. And I don't always get it perfect, but I strive to do the best that I can. And something I've experienced in getting to know people, getting to know like new potential friends is like there's a tendency for people to be very sharp with boundaries. Like let's say you're getting to know someone and maybe they are just like a little bit more open and vulnerable than you're typically comfortable with. Maybe maybe they're like kind of love bombing you in a way that makes you feel a little uncomfortable, or maybe they get a little triggered or something happened and they they maybe didn't handle whatever happened that triggered them the best. And the question is, when something comes up that's like a little rupture in the relationship, especially when I'm first getting to know someone, when I have a conversation with them about it, are they receptive? Do they listen? And can they handle basic communication, right? When I have a conversation about something that happened that I didn't really like or something that bothered me that this person did, and I bring it up to them, like let's say we're hanging out with a friend and like we're going to some event, and right before they we go to this event, they smoke weed around us. And we're sober and it kind of bothers us, right? When I bring that, like this is just an example, but when I bring that up with them, do they use what I'm bringing up with them as a way of taking what I shared and flipping it back onto me and blaming me for why I was upset that they did something like that? Or do they say, I'm sorry, I didn't know, and I won't do that again? And like, and how do people hand basic conversation? How do people, when I bring up, when someone gets triggered and becomes a little reactive, and then maybe a couple of days later we talk about it and we go, hey, I didn't really, it felt like you kind of got triggered there, and maybe, we're kind of, how you're communicating felt a little aggressive. And when you share that with someone, do they go, you know what, you're right, I'm sorry, I'm still learning on what triggers me, and in the future I'll do better? Or do they go, you're misinterpreting it, you should have tougher skin? or say you deserve to be yelled at in that moment, or something that's then flipping the pain back onto you, or flipping what you shared back onto you. And so why I'm talking about this is, can we become more aware of the people we are getting to know? And is the person that I'm getting to know seem like they're living a general healthy life, seem like they are standing for kindness and respect of themselves and of the other people that I watch them with when I'm spending time with them? And if there's little ruptures in relationships, can I be focused more on repair than I am cutting people out? Because there can be a subtle, there can be a subtle tendency or to listen to the walls of our heart, to listen to protection. And we often are, when we're listening to the parts of ourselves that are trying to protect ourselves, which is usually our ideas of people, or usually our maybe even rumors we hear about people, but we haven't actually taken enough time to get to know that person to even see if that rumor is true. When we're listening to our ideas, we're usually coming from a place of protection, but we're protecting ourselves from greater connection. And oftentimes, the people we try and protect ourselves from are actually the people that would be the most safe, loving, kind, respectful if we got to know them. And the part of our ego that loves complication, drama, that loves to feel unworthy, that loves to have a negative self view or negative self view of the world, tries to keep the most loving people at a distance or tries to not let the most loving people in our life, because our ego structure knows that if they let that love get closer to them, then they would have to change and grow to match that person that is loving. And sometimes our ego will fight back by having sharp boundaries right at the beginning of a friendship, maybe even right at the beginning of a romantic relationship, as a way of trying to avoid the change of love. Avoid the change of connection, avoid the change of having greater community in their life. And it's something to be aware of is, can I be a little forgiving if someone doesn't quite handle situation right or doesn't quite communicate the best? And if something's bothering me and I'm getting to know a friend and they're a new friend, can I communicate with them and see if their behavior changed? And if their behavior keeps on happening, or they keep on projecting anger, or triggers keep on happening with this person, and they don't seem to really be receiving the feedback. Okay, I stood for repair. I stood for being a little bit more soft and gentle in 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 maybe my discernment, or being a little bit more soft and gentle in how quickly I cut people out. And it doesn't seem like it's working. Even after I've communicated, even after, then that's someone to say, hey, like, this has happened a couple times now. I don't really see this changing for the better, and I'm grateful we got to spend a little time together, but I would like to have a little bit more distance. I would like to no longer see you as a friend, as a partner, whatever. Um, and then the second thing to be aware of is, when we're getting to know people and their new friends, is, are they lost in addictions or patterns that really feel like old versions of ourselves that we really don't want to be like anymore? Like, for me, I'm someone that has come out of a pornography addiction, out of high school and a little college and a little after college. And spending time with people that are solely focused on hooking up with girls, or I mean, I guess even guys, although I don't have too many gay friends right now, but guys, and that's like they're chasing hookups rather than building connection with people. Spending time with people like that doesn't really fire me up or excite me, and doesn't really feel like, when I've had friends like that, it hasn't really felt like this person is going to help me become a better version of myself. It kind of just felt like I was spending time with them, hoping that I could help them in some way, have it find their way out of the parts of themselves that are chasing pleasure while ignoring, is this really honoring someone else's heart and my heart? Because whenever you're physically intimate with someone, you are building a stronger attachment to that person. And if you're chasing just hooking up with young people because you want to have more of the experience you wish you had when you were younger, or think that if someone hooks up with you that's younger, that gives you greater worthiness or validation, that's maybe not always the healthiest perspective to connect with another person from. And also, it's kind of ignoring like the long-term implications of the action, because when you are having sex with someone, you are forming a strong attachment to that person. And if we're forming strong attachments to people that we don't really see long-term relationships with, we are like kind of like getting getting glue stuck to a beautiful shirt. When that relationship ends, you are going to rip maybe whatever you're going to rip the glue off the shirt, and it's going to tear the shirt a little. And it's not really honoring your heart or another person's heart if you are chasing hooking up with younger people or super attractive people while ignoring, is this someone I really want to have a deeper bond with? Is this someone that I really actually enjoy getting to know? Or am I just chasing desires and cravings while actually ignoring what would be serving the greatest well-being of my heart, serving the greatest well-being of the heart of this other person? And maybe we think, I never fall in love, so I'm not going to be hurt by this. But the heart within you also lives in the heart within all, and how you treat others equally affects your heart, whether you can feel it or not. And it's something to be aware of when we're getting to know people as friends, is are they lost in patterns or trying to connect with people that really doesn't feel that good to me? Are they maybe even in toxic, like romantic relationships, or are they just lost in weed, alcohol? Are they lost in patterns that you go, I don't really care to spend time with someone who's lost in this pattern, and you give to that person and being a friend or maybe even being a partner is going to redirect them to people that are going to be more excited to spend time with that person, and more excited, and you'll be redirected to more people you'll be excited to spend time with. And it's not your job to save people. Sure, spend time with people that 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 maybe are a little bit lower in consciousness or still finding their way out of patterns. But if you give them feedback and they just ignore it, right? I've had friendships where I've been like, hey, I don't think that's really a great way to connect with people, or like here's my experience with like pornography, and like how I realized that pornography was influencing like how I was relating to the opposite sex, and like how I started to wake up from that perspective. And when I shared that with a friend, and it just fell on deaf ears, maybe that, and for me, I started to realize, maybe this isn't someone that I'm really meant to have a continuous friendship with. Maybe it was nice to meet them for a little and spend a little time with them, but the fact that they're kind of chasing, they're not really honoring their heart anymore, or they're kind of starting to get lost in patterns and they're ignoring all the advice I give them. And we always have to be mindful of like when to share advice, when to not share advice. But if someone's talking to you about a relationship, you usually, if it's good advice, you can get away with sharing a little advice or talking about their desires or cravings. And if you share something and they don't really take it in, and you find that they're kind of moving towards a negative orientation, or they're kind of starting to move away from their heart, maybe they're not your person that for you to save. And maybe if you gave them space from the relationship, from your friendship, it would actually help them wake up quicker to, maybe I'm not living in the most alignment with my life. And when we can stop trying to rescue and save people, because rescuing is always coming from a place of unconsciousness. God is within everybody. God is within you. Everyone has angels and guides, and no one is in need of being rescued. If you can help people, help people. But if you're trying to save people who aren't asking to be saved, or you're offering like the most beautiful, perfect guidance to someone and they just ignore it, it might be because they still have a longer journey to go, and their guides and angels will get them to where they're meant to be, even if it's like 10 years down the road. And you don't have to be in charge of that, because you are not them, and they are the main character of their story, and they can choose. If they aren't going to take perfect, awesome advice, they might just be telling you that they're not ready for that yet. And they might need to play out patterns a little bit longer before they become ready of it. And you don't have to stay there and watch them play out those patterns if you don't really feel like you have enough energy to support that anymore. And we all have to trust our inner guidance of, do I feel like I'm just giving this person attention and I don't really want to see them anymore? Or do I feel like or do I feel like I or do I feel like I still am excited to see them, still really enjoy hanging out with them? And like, we can be excited to see someone, but if someone's lost in an addiction, that addiction is always going to be a priority most of the time over us. And we're better off forming relationships with people that are either pretty close, or either working to find their way out of addictions, because we all have little addictions, even if it's just like scrolling on our phone, or we wish we smoked a little less weed, or we want to drink a little less. Like, if someone's like, I sometimes drink a little bit too much, and they share about it, and you give them advice and they receive it, that I'm not saying you can't be friends with someone like that, but what I'm trying to point at is, how do you feel spending time with someone? And if you feel like it's exhausting to spend time with someone, or you don't feel excited to go see someone, it's probably not someone you're meant to spend time with. And if you feel still excited or resonant or happy to go see someone, probably someone you're still meant to be in relationship with. And when we're looking at partnerships and thinking about people to date, sometimes relationships work for a certain period of time and then they stop working. And something I've realized is with like dancing with people is, oftentimes when a dance is working and then doesn't feel like it's quite working anymore, it's a lot easier to bring the dance back to working again if it just feels like we're a little off rather than way off. And it's the same with like dating or romantic partnerships. Is if I'm in a relationship, how off does it feel? Is this person obsessed with sports or politics in a way that feels really triggering for me, and they talk about that more than they are willing to listen to me? Right? And if we are finding that, or this person feels so self-absorbed in topics that they don't have space to listen to their own partner, what are we doing? Maybe we shouldn't be in that type of relationship. And tend, I would say most empaths, and I would say most people are not discerning enough in who they should date. Most people are not looking at Well, I don't know if I can say most people, but a fair amount of people do not look at, is this someone I really want to have a long-term relationship with? Is like their patterns, like do they use pornography? Do they smoke a bunch of weed? And if those aren't resonant with me, why would I want to date someone like that? It doesn't matter how hot they are. When you start to date someone like that, your brain is matching their brain's neurons. And if they're lost in an addiction or maybe they don't call it an addiction, but use pornography regularly or use weed regularly or overdrink and you don't really vibe with that and you don't want to be more like that, you shouldn't be dating them. And if we're in a relationship that's working and then it stops working, is it just kind of like, is it close? Does it feel really close to just coming back, or we just had a little rupture? Or is it like, wow, I don't really want to be like this person at all, or this person regularly triggers the shit out of me. And I don't know what the hell I'm doing with this person anymore. Or I'm constantly hearing a voice of, I want to break up with them. And what if that's the wisdom of your heart trying to communicate with you and not a voice to be ignored? And the only way you're going to know if that's something to listen to or if that's a part of ourselves that is maybe trying to cut someone out rather than focus towards repair, because we love to cut people out and we don't really like to find repair or resolution in our life. The only way to know which one it is is when I'm kind of losing my train of thought. Is when I'm is how big of a difference is it between them and me? And am I staying with this person because they are familiar and comfortable and I'm scared of the change it would bring to no longer be with this person? Or am I with this person? Or does it actually feel like the greatest change and growth to continue to be with this person? And I'm scared of that. And it's why I want to end the relationship. But when we're looking at people's patterns, if they're lost in patterns that you don't want to be more like, you should not be dating that person. And there is a misconception of settling and compromising in relationships is healthy. Settling and compromising in romantic relationships is not healthy at all, right? If you want the most aligned relationship, it's about not settling and compromising at all and standing for, what do I actually value? What do I actually want? And can I take the journey and the pressure cooker of not having what I want for a while, or not dating the first hot person that hits on me or that is interested in me? Because that is a journey of growth that most people avoid. That is a journey of growth that people that are codependent, are people pleasing, live to avoid. And 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 when we are willing to not settle and compromise is when we attract another person who is not settling and compromising. And people that don't settle and compromise are fully in their power, and they've learned how to love themselves because they have spent enough time with themselves and they've cultivated enough worth and value to have discernment. Oftentimes, our life is out of balance when we don't feel worthy of having more, when we don't feel, and we can say I'm worthy of having more while still being unworthy. Like for me, I went through a big weight loss journey. And the thing that I lost like 40 pounds or like maybe 30 pounds. And the thing that motivated me to lose weight was I am worthy of being hot. And every different cultures are going to have different standards for what's attractive and what's not attractive. But for me, I really value mobility. I value being fit and in shape. And I was like, I had put on a fair amount of like fat from fasting and meditating because it slowed my metabolism down. And I did it so like extremely that then I couldn't feel my body stopped telling me when it was full and when it was not full anymore. And so I put on a bunch of weight after that. And I went, I am worth feeling good about my body. I'm worth being the best in the best shape of my life. And I desired more. And so I changed towards that growth. But when we feel like I don't deserve more is what keeps us stagnant in relationships that aren't working, in relating to ourselves in ways that aren't working, or eating in ways that aren't working, or lost in addictions that aren't working for us. And you are worthy of more. You can have whatever you desire, but it's about being able to say no to what you don't desire. Because if you can't say no what you don't desire, you're never going to be able to actually get to what you desire. Kind of like if you're in a job that maybe pays good, or maybe it pays doesn't good, but you think you're not worthy of having a job that would actually light you up or excite you or feel like you're actually making a difference in the world, or actually be aligned with like a level of creativity or joy that would feel so good to live every day. And you go, I don't think I'm actually worthy of having a job like that. And so you stay in your job that you're miserable in. And it doesn't mean we need to leave things that aren't working tomorrow, but can we become a lot more curious of what would actually be fulfilling to me? If I'm working a corporate job, but what would feel fulfilling to me is like being a helicopter pilot, why can't I go and do that? Why can't this world is your oyster? If someone else has achieved if someone else has become a professional poet, a professional musician, there's no a professional artist, a professional whatever you want to do. Maybe you want to go back to school and become an engineer and you really like math. Whatever it is, there's no reason you can't do it. And the question is, can I not give up on my dreams? Can I not give up on what I value? And there's no reason for me to stay in a career, in a relationship that is making me miserable, because I'm just wasting time at that point. And if I'm in a career that isn't working for me, can I start to explore? Can I start to explore what I'm passionate about? Because if you just take enough time to explore your passion, you will find your purpose. Even if your purpose is just doing something for a job that you enjoy more, right? Maybe what you would enjoy more is being like a pickleball coach working at a local gym or a local tennis court. And if that is what brings you your greatest joy, if pickleball is the thing that you feel most passionate about, there's no reason not to do that. And sure, we need to be aware of our light. And if we have children that we have to support, maybe that dream we have to put off for a couple years, or that's like a retirement dream. We all have to be aware of what's actually true for us, what actually logically makes the most sense. And what, like, if I've signed up to take care of kids, like, I might need to work a job that I'm a little less happy in to support them until they're fully on their own before I can actually pursue what works. And maybe if I became more curious where I am now, there's a way of me working this job and also finding a little bit more time for a passion, or also moving a direction of being able to do something that lights me up that also provides for my kids as well. And it's just about becoming curious of, I don't need to settle and compromise in career. I don't need to settle and compromise in relationships. If someone's playing out patterns that don't vibe with me, I don't need to stay in that relationship. And if the dance is not working, we're better off just going to find a different dance than trying to tough it out or make it work or feel like they have to be the one. If we're saying they have to be the one, they're probably not the one, because that statement is coming from, I don't want to face the truth. And if we've had a conversation with someone about something that bugs us and they keep on doing it over and over again and they don't seem to really receive the conversation, that we've had with them or had multiple conversations with them about, it might be time to leave. It might be time to leave that friendship, that relationship. And when we can be discerning is when we start to remember our power, is when we start to go, I am worthy of love. And the aloneness we find in being more discerning. And it doesn't mean we like need to have no friends. And it doesn't mean we can't go outside and spend and go to events and spend and get to know people, but being willing to say no to relationships that would add another relationship to my life, but would actually be more of a distraction rather than filling me up with the greatest passion, excitement, fulfillment. And if you follow what you're passionate about, you follow what's exciting, if you start to become curious of what is ways I could change my life that would be for more fulfilling, passionate, and exciting, and can I follow reason most of the time, because logic is important. Logic is how our awakened heart is balanced out by our awakened mind. And most of the choices you're going to make in your life are going to be logical. And when we can start to become discerning, when we can start to be willing to not spend time in extra relationships that don't really feel that fulfilling, is when we find empowerment, is when we find our love, and it's also when we find the greatest peace in our life. So thank you for listening. I really appreciate you watching, and I hope you all have an amazing night.